Hello and welcome back to another edition of Soul in My Soul. This is Andeun. As you know, this is a podcast that normally takes place on a weekly basis, although last week I recorded a number of episodes. This is my life and experiences in Korean and Korean American culture, all from the unique point of view of a non-Korean adopted into the culture. So, the past few episodes have basically been a countdown of the most popular blog posts that I've ever written on WaygookinWay.com. And so, today is the conclusion of said countdown. If you follow me on Twitter at the Waygookin, you know that I promised that this would be the most controversial article that I've ever written. And the reason that I say that is I had an ad company that wanted to do a promotion for me, so they offered $50 promotion, and I could put any video I want, they would promote it. So I did the video that I did for this article on that promotion, and they got back to me saying that they felt it was too controversial of a topic for them to advertise, so they pulled it, which is something I was not expecting them to say. But after you hear about it, you may understand why they would have felt that way. This goes back to Monday, July 11th, so almost exactly 1 year. One of the first articles that I ever wrote back when my site still had WordPress.com at the end of it. It is, do Korean people hate black people? The reason that I wrote this article is this is a question I get asked all the time. It is probably one of the top 5 questions I get asked. I would say top 3 questions I get asked when people hear me speaking Korean. So it's something that I felt I wanted to clarify from my own point of view. And to get further insight into this, I actually talked to a number of people. So I talked to some black people. When I say black people, I'm referring to African Americans because I've not talked to any African people who are from Africa that are in Korea or have been to Korea. But I have talked to African Americans that have been in Korea. So I talked to a number of people that were black, and I talked to Korean Americans as well as Korean people in Korea regarding this topic. And so, overall, the answer is Korean people in general do not hate black people. That is a perception that is out there because of some views, especially of older people in older generations. And so the article goes into how and why that happened. And it goes back, according to the people I talked to the Korean War. So, the time period of the Korean War, Korea is still healing from Japanese invasion during World War II. Now you have this Korean War, and so you have many Korean people who had never seen a non-Asian person in person before. And all of a sudden you have these soldiers from other countries. And so one gentleman told me that he would walk around, he wasn't a soldier, but because he was so tall, children would look at him and start yelling, Waygookin, Waygookin, which is Korean word for foreigner. And so you have all these different looking people now in Korea, and what ends up happening is you have a lot of black men that end up falling in love with Korean women and marrying them. And these were considered to be very beautiful, very attractive Korean women. And so, somewhere along the line that got seen as a problem. So that's when negative propaganda started flowing into Korea about black men and black people in general. And so one woman told me that in her generation, the parents were told, black people are horrible, black men don't treat their women right, and your children are going to have your children, if they marry a black man, they're going to have super dark skin, so don't let your daughters marry them. Let them marry someone who's white if they're not going to marry a Korean. And so a lot of that ended up being believed, and that's part of where that stigma came from. So around that time period, though, that generation and the one after that, if a woman married somebody who was black, it was generally looked down upon. If she married somebody who was white, it was considered to be acceptable. If even today, when that happens, there are some Korean women who marry black men and they feel like their struggle is a lot harder than if they would have married somebody white. So, to a degree, that still exists among some parents and some grandparents as well, as far as the older generation, and that stigma. The reason that I say that in general that's not the case in Korea anymore, one, there's more and more people that are there that are black, that people are seeing that are teachers. So you have little kids that are now growing up, and the first time they see a black person is actually in school teaching them. So that's one thing that kind of helps break the ice. There have been other people that have gone to Korea and they haven't done anything wrong or negative like the people were taught to believe. So that has helped take away that stereotype of black men and black people in Korea. But also the results of the marrying outside of Korean culture that women have gone through. So this isn't every case, but in a number of cases that I've seen and people that I've talked to, there were a lot of Korean women who married somebody who was white, whether he was in the military or not, and got a lot of support for that, but then life ended up being difficult. And so, obviously, I can't tell you any names, but there are a number of Korean women that I know that did marry white men, and they said that they were later told very early on in their marriage by their husband that he doesn't like Korean things, he doesn't like Korean people, he doesn't want to smell Korean food, he doesn't want anything Korean in his house. And so when you marry somebody, you think you're in love and they love you, and then you're told you need to give up your entire identity, that is a very, very hurtful thing to go through. Compound that with leaving your family and culture behind, going thousands of miles away, and then some have had a large problem with bigotry amongst their in-laws, and it makes for an even harder situation. So, is that every situation where a Korean woman married a white man? No. But it is in a lot of the situations that I've personally seen. In fact, one of the saddest things I ever heard, I remember being with one of my friends. He's half Korean, half white, and he said he told his mom one day the biggest mistake he ever made was marrying a white man. So that lets you know when that situation comes up, the amount of pain not only by the wife but by the child as well. As far as the Korean women that married black men, many were mocked and ridiculed. It was viewed as a situation where sometimes the only Korean women that would want to marry a black man were either prostitutes or women that were considered good enough to get a Korean man. But when those women ended up coming back to Korea, they reported their families in the States loved them, accepted them, so they didn't have as many problems with bigotry amongst their in-laws, although there are some, definitely, big time. But overall, in general, from the stories that I've heard and the stories that I've seen in my 15 years in the culture, most were treated very well. Their husbands embraced the fact that they were Korean and wanted their kids to learn. They loved Korean food and were even open to moving back to Korea to help take care of their parents. Again, that's not every situation, but it happened quite a bit. So the thing that I was told by people in Korea is there's a lot of Korean women that are young women now. They've seen this and they feel like since they are attracted to black men, since they know about African American culture and like it. And since there's all these positive stories of women who married black men, that they're willing to marry a black man. Some are even openly seeking and preferring to marry a black man. And so, for those that are interested, the thing that I've been told is when you get outside of Seoul, you start to meet more and more people that are open to either allowing their daughter to marry somebody who is black, or women that are actually open to marrying a black man. So that's a tip if you're looking for that. Although you can find people in Seoul that are very open-minded about things as well. Now, one of the things I did talk about in this article was what about Korean American people. And one of the things that I openly talk about is when dealing with Korean people, whether they are newly from Korea or they've been in the United States for a while, people that are Korean Americans, I've had more issues with them, more problems with them not being accepting or them being racist. But again, it's not every Korean American that I've met, just a few bad apples in that situation. And so some of them are so afraid that they won't look like a good Korean that taints their view of people. But in Korean American culture, and even in Korean culture, there's a number of young people, they're influenced by hip hop. If you listen to K-pop and you watch it and you watch the videos, when you see some of the dancing, when you see some of the actions, the clothing, you can tell that there is a strong African American influence. And so for these people, they don't have that hatred. And that's just something with young people in general in Korea. And the hatred that Koreans had towards the Japanese, the younger generation doesn't have as strongly. And that stigma, that fear of African Americans, that's not there amongst a lot of younger Koreans as well. So it's stuff like that where you see better race relations developing, you see better things happening overall, people that are being more and more accepting. And that's why I say that, in my opinion, Korean people in general do not hate black people. Are there some bigots? Of course. Are there some racists? Of course. But overall, my feeling is, from my experience, the overwhelming majority of Korean and Korean Americans that I've met do not have any hatred towards me. The fact that I can communicate in Korean does help me to have a better relationship with them, and it just makes things better overall. So if you're afraid of going to Korea because you are black, then definitely try to put that fear aside and go see the culture for yourself. The thing that I found is I was told that a lot of Korean people would be racist towards me by Korean Americans. Then I found out that those Korean Americans are racist, and that was their personal point of view. So experiencing the culture for myself made things a lot better. And that's what I encourage you to do as well. And don't be afraid that Korean Americans are going to hate you, or they're going to be the old ajushi or ajuma that it's at the store staring at you like you're going to steal. There's a lot of younger people who want to broaden your horizon and perspective of the world. They want to have friends of all different races and cultures and backgrounds. So you can very easily make friends with younger generation Korean people. So don't be afraid. Put yourself out there and you'll experience the love that is Korean culture. As always, you can contact me either at contact@waygookinway.com, contact at WaygookinWay.com, or Soul in My Soul at WaygookinWay.com. That's SEOULINMYSOUL at WaygookinWay.com. Thanks for all of you who listened to the previous episode. I've definitely seen a surge in my views on the Lily Petals World review on WaygookinWay.com. I appreciate that. Don't forget also, in the description box, you can find my social media links and how you can contact me via Kakao. So if you use Kakao and you have questions that you want to ask. Some of you have asked about Korean learning. Some of you have asked about Korean culture, and I've answered you, so don't be afraid to contact me there either. So once again, thank you for tuning in to Seoul in My Soul. This is An Deun, and I will talk to you later. Remember, the best way to get rid of your nightmares is to live out your dreams. Goodbye.